My name is Kathleen Rudolph, and I am here today with Larry Evans and Melanie Simmons. Hi, everyone.
Hey, how's it going?
And we are here today to find out a little more about Melanie. So Melanie, when did you first get the acting bug? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I remember like it was yesterday. I was 12 years old. My parents are pastors, and we had this traveling group of skit people. That was their ministry. They did those little skits about God and Jesus. And there was one actress who did a scene where she, at one point in this skit, she said something to God, and she said it towards the back of the auditorium in such a way that was so convincing. Swear to God, we all turned around, and we knew God wasn't standing at the back of the room, but we all just, and I was like, it was like, I want to do that for the rest of my life. That was amazing. And my parents were very dismayed to have an actress daughter, but I was bit and I was done, and I wanted to do this forever from that moment on.
That's so great.
Other than like grade school and high school, what was the first show you were in?
Other than grade school, let's see, the first show I was in college. Does college count, or do you want after college? Okay, my first show in college was The Foreigner. Oh, and gosh, I'm not going to remember the name of it was the female lead in that part. I can't even remember the name. I got to do a thick Southern accent, which I now, looking back on it, was probably atrocious, but I thought it was very clever at the time. And that was my first sort of main role on stage post like high school.
That's great. That's a great show. Very
it
funny
was
show.
so fun. We had so much fun. There was grits flying everywhere. We were all over the stage. It was a blast.
Did you have a mentor back in the day?
I did. My mentor back in college, his name's Doc, and he still is my heart. I love Doc to death. He's amazing. He taught me a little bit of the way the theater. I went to a Christian university because it was the only one that had a theater degree program. And it was on the other coast, and my parents were really trying hard to keep me from going into theater. I actually got accepted into AMDA
Nice.
with one audition and no other references, and my parents wouldn't pay for it. So, took me like 20 years to forgive them for that. But in retaliation, I went all the way to San Diego to Point Loma Nazarene University and joined their theater program, which was tiny. So I got to learn a little bit about everything. And Doc taught me pretty much everything I knew about stage acting at that point. He was amazing. I loved him. He's retired now. I missed his retirement party. I was very sad.
Oh. Did he or anyone else ever give you really fabulous advice about acting?
Gosh, yeah. You know, I college was so many years ago that I don't even want to admit it. So honestly, I'm going to kind of jump forward in time to my current mentor, who's Linda Clark. She's my stage mentor at the moment. I met her just sort of on the chance, and we just started chatting, and I had no idea who she was. I was brand new to Raleigh Theater. And we just started chatting, and she's, yeah, you know, I do a little bit of coaching. I was like, oh, cool, I'm trying to get back into theater. And so I signed up for a coaching session with her and didn't realize what a gold mine I had landed on until I actually started working with her. But she really focuses on behavior, and I've really gotten very into that. You know, the lines, of course, are essential, but the lines are almost secondary to what's happening. People, she says so often, and I love it, is that they won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you said it. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of focusing my shift from just, you know, kind of just taking it to the next level, from learning your lines and hitting your marks, to adding in all the behavior and the mentality and just sort of the little mannerisms that really make the character come alive off the page.
Subtext, subtext, subtext.
Yes, thank you. It's all in what you don't say.
Right. That's what I like about film acting. You have a chance to do the subtext.
That's my favorite part about film acting too. I love some stage actors don't like having the camera like right here. Right. I love it. I love it when the camera's all up in my business and it's just catching everything. It's such a challenge. I love that.
I liked it 20 years ago when I was 20 years younger.
Yeah.
And now
I'm an editor now too, so I have to edit myself. I went, oh, okay. Do I look good or acting good?
But with Zoom, we're all in the camera.
Right.
all the
Yeah, I
time.
love acting on camera. I don't like watching myself afterwards because it's
Right.
always like you see everything and it's like, oh, my eye twitched right there. I hated that. No one else notices it, but
I know.
you know, we're our own worst critics. So.
Do you have a favorite theater or film actor?
Oh gosh, that one's so hard. I know I can tell you, growing up, one of my favorite actors ever was Jessica Tandy.
Yeah.
You might remember who that is. I don't know if
Oh
any
yeah.
of the
Oh, we know.
millennials know who that is, but look
Yeah.
her up. She's amazing. She
Glass
had
Eye.
this incredible career. That was, I think she had like a 70-year career or something insane. And my parents were very conservative, so I was raised on a lot of the classic movies. And so I got a real appreciation for her and just love the fact that she got to do what she loved for her whole life. And that really was my, I spent my time wanting to be rich and famous, but really at the end of the day, if I can just work for as long as I can, and if they'll just keep letting me do this and, occasionally get paid for it, that's the dream right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you ever have a really bad audition, and what happened?
Oh gosh, yes. I sort of block them out of my memory when they happen. I'll see if I can come up with specifics. I have a really particular audition style where I kind of throw myself into it and I go whole hog. And then as soon as it's over, I just try to forget it. Because especially with film acting, 99% of the time, you're not going to get cast and you're never going to hear back as to why, or you just don't get any feedback. So I kind of try to put them out of my mind. I mean, I've had auditions where I just had like mid monologue, just hard freeze, deer in the headlights. Sorry, I'm done. It's gone. And those are always just the worst. You want to sing into the floor. One of the fun ones I'll say that was a little more recent. I thought it was the worst audition ever. I had a migraine. I didn't want to do it. Not because I didn't want to do it, but just I was not feeling well. It was like 3 lines. I barely had it memorized. I went into my agents. I was there maybe 5 minutes. I was like, all right, slate, here's my 3 lines. I'm out of here. I barely even remember what happened. It's like, well, I didn't get that one. That's the part that I landed on Outer Banks. So you never know. Apparently, and I've actually had another one where I had a really bad headache and I got that gig too. So it's like, apparently when I have a really bad headache, I audition really well.
There you go.
Write that one down.
Have a really bad headache for this big audition. Check.
I love that.
I feel the same way. I don't think about the audition after I audition. I only check my mail every 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's that, obviously, but.
What is your favorite show you've been in and why?
Favorite show. It's always the current one because I get so hyper focused on whatever I'm working on at the moment. So many of them are my favorites for so many different reasons, but I'm going to go with Perfect Arrangement to answer that question. It was not the first stage role I'd had since coming back to theater after taking a long break, but it was the first role where, I was main stage, Sutton Theater at Raleigh Little Theater, and it was such a great role. And sometimes things just come together and it's just this perfect marriage of just timing and actors and message. And also I had the easiest part in that play. I just got to go on stage and be comic relief and be silly and bring a little bit of heart to it, which was my favorite part. So I didn't have to do the heavy lifting on this show, so it's easy to call that one my favorite. But that one will always live in my heart as a super special place forever. And I'm just forever grateful to Patrick for that opportunity. I will never forget that.
Is there a role you've always wanted to play?
My dream role has always been Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady, which I believe I have aged out of at this point. Also, I can't sing, so that's a problem. But if anybody's looking to stage Pygmalion, please let me audition. Although, I'm not sure if I can pull it off anymore, but I've always loved. That's my very favorite musical of all time. And I've always done
it. What's your favorite type of actor to be on stage with?
I really love when you just have when you have someone who's really present and isn't afraid to make eye contact, and you're just able to just stand there in that space and just like hook into each other. And then it does, the lines and the blocking are so important, but they almost become like background things that just happen, and you're just living in the moment, and just feeding off of each other. And it's so visceral and unpredictable and beautiful, and that's my very favorite kind of stage experience to have. And when you know the audience, I feel like when you have that kind of an intense connection and that kind of an intense interplay, nonverbal interplay with another actor, the audience gets caught up in it too. That's my favorite kind of place to watch, where you just feel like a fly on the wall and you're just getting sucked into the story. So anytime I'm able to feel like I'm creating that on stage is my very favorite.
You feel safe. I feel safe when I connect with the other actor on stage. I think Mary Rowland's considered like you're a life jacket. The other person's a life jacket at the time.
Yes. You just float along together and stroke together and take the journey together. Because I feel like we're just storytellers and we're telling a story. Right. And when you're able to lock in all the technicals of lines and blocking and all those technicals and lock them in, and then just sort of push off and let the story tell itself. I mean, that's the magic right there. That's the pocket we all want to live in 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all have best moments on stage. Do you remember one, or can you tell us what makes a moment amazing on stage?
Well, I kind of just did. That really is when you're able to get so caught up in your own storytelling that the audience gets caught up with you, and then you're just like on this communal journey together. There's two moments in recent, because I took like 10 years off in between acting when I was younger and getting back in the theater in Raleigh. So I sort of have, they're a little segmented, and it's easier for me to reference the last few years. But there was one time in Perfect Arrangement when I got laughed off the stage. I had a funny exit, and I got applauded off the stage. And I wasn't expecting it. Yeah. And I'll never forget, because Jim O'Brien was standing right off stage, and I did my little exit, and everybody was laughing, and then they started applauding. And Jim and I just looked at each other. I was like, "Oh my God, they're clapping me off!" Yay! And it was there was another similar moment where there was one night during the Revolutionists when Marie had her execution, and there's this moment where I sing this little song, and she's dead and she's been executed, and I just take these deep breaths and process the emotions of the moment. And then I look up into this light, and the light goes out, and Marie's gone. And there was one night where just everything, I'm giving myself chills. Everything just kind of connected, and I felt every moment of it. And I just looked up at the light and just kind of, instead of like, I just kind of just like released my breath. It's planned. It wasn't intentional. It just kind of let go just as the light went out. And that was another time when I got applauded off the stage, and I wasn't expecting it, but it was just because it was such a great moment where all those little details just came together just right, and it worked.
I got chills when you told that story. Oh, yeah. It was
amazing.
What's one of the funniest things that ever happened to you on stage, like that went wrong?
Okay, so there was this play. I was in Les Bourgeois Gentilhommes when I was in college, and I got to play a woman who was impersonating her dead brother in order to find her missing lover, who was killed by her brother in a duel. Commedia dell'arte. Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Yeah. And I had to learn this fencing scene with one of my co-stars, and we had this all choreographed, and the ends of the swords were blunt, like everything was safe, everything was choreographed, everything was great. And one night, so we do this little fight, and he falls to the ground, and I point my sword at his head, like, to kind of in victory. And one night, completely unchoreographed, he rolled back towards me into the point of my sword. And even though it was blunted, it just caught his ear just right. And he just started bleeding. And it wasn't gushing or anything, but it was like dripping. And I was just mortified isn't even the word. I was horrified and panicked, but we still had scene to do. So we're both standing there like with this look on our face, like, oh my God, I'm gonna finish saying my lines, and you're gonna finish your saying your lines, and yes, we're gonna do our things. And then we got off stage, and I was instantly like, oh my God, are you okay? horrible. I felt so bad. And he was fine. It was just a scratch. It's like a head wound. They bleed more than they look worse than they are.
Oh,
But it was, I will never, I think my heart stopped for about 60 seconds on stage.
I bet.
It's awful.
I was doing a show years ago, and my character dies, and I'm on stage for like 5 minutes before I come back as a zombie. And the scene went fine, but the stage manager said after the show, "Oh, you were really brave because you had that cockroach climbing over your body." It's like, what?
Oh my God.
I would have reanimated early and screamed and jumped off stage if that had happened. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh my.
If you couldn't be an actor, what's another profession you'd want to do in the theater arts?
Oh, not director. I can say that. Everyone says I'm going to want to get into directing someday, and if that's waiting out there for me, I haven't hit it yet because I like being told what to do. I mean, I like having collaboration and bringing something to the table, but my favorite thing is to make someone else's vision come to life. That's what I really love to do. I don't know, maybe writing. I've never written a play. I do a little bit of writing on the side on occasion, so that's maybe my next most creative outlet. But I've never written a screenplay, so maybe playwright. If I couldn't act, then maybe that.
Nice.
If you could go back in time and talk to your younger version when you first started acting, what advice would you tell your younger self about acting?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I come hell or high water, I would have found some way to go to AMDA. I mean, I love Doc, and my time in California was amazing and wonderful, and my life has turned out beautifully. I can't complain at all. But I spent a lot of time regretting that I had sort of given up on that a little too early. So I spent a lot of time kind of wishing I could go back and tell myself that. But probably maybe more general and useful is just to I would have wanted to stay focused on theater more. I spent a lot of time just wanting to be a movie star, and there's so much. I feel like on stage is where I do most of my acting. That's where I learn the most. It's where I grow the most. And then the stuff on camera is a lot. Some of it's, when you do commercials and stuff and you're like pretending not to know how to use a blender, that's like, it's like silly acting and it's fun, but it pays the bills.
Right.
And then I'm, lucky enough to do some things like split ends where you do get to kind of stretch your chops and learn a totally different kind of acting with the camera in your face. And, but I kind of spent a little bit of time sort of eschewing theater in favor of becoming a movie star. And I wish I'd been a little more dedicated to the craft than to the idea of being famous, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that's just a young phase I guess everybody goes through, but I wish I had skipped it or shortened it a little bit. I
went through that phase as well.
I think we all have.
So I did West Side Story where it just hit. It's like, oh.
Yeah. It's only until you try it. And I spent enough time in LA to kind of figure out what was going on there. Right. And that's when I was like, oh, this is why the craft matters more than whether or not you become famous. And, I'm not eschewing that either necessarily, but my goal now, coming back into theater this time, I have very different goals than when I was younger. And getting rich and famous is not on the list, but it's much further down the list. It's sort of like, if that happens, great. If not, I just want to do good work. So.
What's the first thing you want to do when we go back to normal life?
Oh gosh. I want to find every single one of my friends and hug the crap out of them. I'm a hugger, y'all. So I'm an introvert. So in some ways being told to stay at home and watch TV all day long, it was kind of awesome. I got caught up on a lot of things. But I'm a hugger, and it's really been hard. And the few friends I have been able to see in person, a couple of our friends were wonderful enough to show up in masks and help us move. And it was like excruciating. I'm like, you're right there, and I can't squish you. So I really hope hugging becomes a thing again, because it's gonna be a long, hard road if I don't get to hug people. But as far as artistically, I just want to get back up on stage. I'm hoping and praying, and I've heard some good information that Steel Magnolias at Temple will resume in the fall.
Oh, good.
So we'll be able to hopefully pick up where we left off, which would be a dream come true, because I just started getting a feel for Malin. You understand, it's when you you don't really start acting until you're in front of an audience.
Right.
Rehearsal is just kind of getting the bones in there. But it's once you get in front of an audience, you really start to feel out the character and wear her for a while and start to discover depths you didn't realize. And I feel like I was just starting to that process, and then it got halted. And don't get me wrong, I'm supremely grateful that we got our opening weekend. A lot of people didn't even get that. So I know on that spectrum, I'm extremely blessed, and I don't take that for granted for one moment. But if I do get a chance to pick her back up again and explore Malin some more, that would be amazing.
That's great. That's a great answer. Well, I thank you for doing this today. This really is, it warmed my heart to hear some of your replies. So I really appreciate it. It's just so much fun to find out all these different facts about all of us theater people and how we kind of get together and become that puzzle that is the stage, you know.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you so much for asking me. And you said before we started recording that, you know, there's so much content out there, and it is wonderful, and I love it. If there's one thing that I found so beautiful about this whole quarantine thing, is just the creative ways we found to still connect and still create and still contribute to each other and still interact and tell our stories. Yeah. Nothing can stop us, and that's been beautiful to watch.
It has. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. This was fun. Hopefully I'll see you all soon and we'll work together.
Yes, in person.
I know. I want to work with you guys.
Yes, please make this happen.
Oh.
From your ears to the theater gods.